I recently made an Ork pirate ship for my Ork Freebooters army that I decided to start during lockdown. I posted a few pictures online and it seemed like people liked seeing it, so I wanted to go ahead and share the steps that I went through in order to create it. The first thing I did was I bought loads of Popsicle or lolly sticks. I actually bought 2,000. In the end, I didn't make a dent on it. Anyway, you got to steam them to get some curvature going. Here I am steaming some. Softens them up really well. You want to do at least 10 minutes. Here I'm wearing some driving gloves to stop myself burning my hands, and then just starting to go ahead and break the seal, if you like, and just get them starting to bend a little bit. Obviously that's not enough, so you got to put them in a former of some kind. Here I'm using a coffee cup. If you don't put them in in a kind of symmetrical fashion, both ends, then they kind of pop out because they've still got the elasticity in them. There's a sneak preview of a few of them waiting to come out. Once they've cooled down, after maybe 20 minutes or so, you can start to bring them out. You can see some hold their shape better than others, basically. Yeah, here they are popping out. Some with elasticity still in them. You can see they sort of revert a little bit to their straightened shape, but the longer you leave them, and the more dry they get, then actually the more they retain that curved shape. Here I was kind of sizing them up against each other for curvature. Basically, whenever I use popsicle sticks, I carve them, so you're basically trying to get rid of that uniform shape. You're basically trying to make it look like a rough-hewn kind of orkish vehicle, I suppose. You know, they're not making things that are perfectly uniformly straight, so if you're making their vehicles, don't do that. You can chop the ends off or rip them off. Here's a sneak peek of a curved one that's been textured. I then went ahead and basically built the keel. I have some knowledge of boat building in the real world, so I basically laid the keel first, then put a kind of angler on it and put an angler on the other side, basically so that any ribs that would come off there would already have a little head start in trying to go to the vertical position on the sides. Yeah, basically used super glue for all of this. I used an absolute ton of super glue, to be honest. The bigger expense is probably in the super glue than the popsicle sticks, to be honest. Yeah, and I'm also putting some strengtheners in there just to kind of really shore it up. Here you can see the first ribbing coming into place. Yeah, just gluing them on. Here I'm putting some lateral sort of strengthening on the keel and the sort of first anglers. I don't think that's the real word, anglers, but that's what I call them. Next I wanted to go ahead and actually make the deck. So I realized that a good position to be in was about 1 lolly stick wide. And so using a lolly stick as a kind of meter stick, if you like, I went ahead and just textured loads and loads of lolly sticks and laid them out, snapping some of them to create a kind of a more haphazard approach. Here I'm putting the underneath sort of scaffold on, if you like, which won't be seen. There you go, that's how it comes out. And yeah, it fit on quite well. This is what you see on the deck for the final piece. Yeah, here's a little sneak peek with some ribbing there and some decking. When I was kind of in the middle of the job, I realized that I'd just created a huge mess. Look at this. Every single, splinter there is something I've carved off. And I'm using super glue for the kind of the dry dock shoring, if you like. But in the end, it looks really nice. The surface there looks really good, I think. I started putting some bow pieces on there as well. Here, this is what I originally started doing, was actually a lamb shank roasting tin, and I thought, okay, that's vaguely boat shaped, shall I use that? But in the end I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't. This is looking much better and it's much more durable. Here you can see the bow pieces starting to take shape. Couldn't resist the temptation to just stick some orks on there and see how it looks. For the stern or the transom, I basically used the boat itself as a template, if you like, just to draw on some paper, just to get an idea of what the outline for my stern section needs to look like. I knew it wouldn't be perfectly accurate, but in the end, that's how I approached it. I quite like this kind of problem solving on the hoof as well. I find that quite rewarding. Here I am putting the stern sections together. I did actually texture those pieces that are going on now because I knew they'd be vertical, therefore potentially more visible. Yeah, I've used super glue activator. Honestly, if you can buy super glue that comes with activator, do it. It just sets instantly. I love it. It just speeds up projects so much as well. Here I'm doing a little test fit for the transom. So again, this is the final piece that I ended up using. I think it looks quite good there. Deliberately higgledy-piggledy in places. Next I wanted to do like basically a forecastle or a forecastle deck, which was like one step up. I thought about doing one 2 steps up, but I thought, you know, for this first one I'll just keep it basic. I just did a cocktail stick that was textured standing on edge for the step, and then stuck on however long they need to be, the popsicle sticks. Here you can see it going on. I use as well as using the super glue with the activator, I use very runny, almost water-like super glue. Just once things are held in place, I then just douse it in that, and it really helps to just, you know, firm up the whole thing. Just really keeps it solid. It's quite durable actually as a result of that as well. Here's some Ork boys on board, testing out the new Trukk or Battlewagon. I think it's looking pretty cool at this stage. You can see, because the light's coming from above, the texture of the wood's really sort of starting to show there. Looks a lot more orky than it would if it was just plain popsicle sticks. Next you want to go in your bits box, and you're just looking for anything orky that you can stick on there. These little pieces are from random vehicle and you know, infantry kits. I just thought, what looks cool there? The hole in the deck was totally accidental, but in the end I thought it looked cool to have a wire going in there, so it looks like a sort of generator or power unit on deck. Those 2 metal panels, I thought, I kind of wanted to, yeah, this is the door that like coincidentally totally fitted in there. I was tempted to make a taxi sort of coloured door. In the end I put some weapons together and sort of tried them out on deck. Thought it was looking pretty cool. And I ended up putting that metal panel on the starboard bow over there. I originally wanted to make like a little driving cabin for like an orc, but or a steering position. Yeah, that harpoon could have done as an anchor as well. And in the end I made it a kind of harpoon gun, which was stuck into another bit of one of those mech guns. And here's some, it's looking okay, I think. It's looking pretty good. Here for size, next to a Lehman Russ and the Land Raider, honestly, I've probably made it too wide. I didn't want it to be bigger than a Land Raider, but it is. Here I've basically hit it with is it White Scar primer from Citadel, and I think it looks good. I like how primer pulls the whole model together, even though some of it's plastic and some of it's wood. There's still some woody areas showing, and that's absolutely fine. Now basically painting the whole thing brown. I only realised at this stage actually I didn't have a lot of brown paint left, and so I had to thin it a lot and mix it with other brown paints in order to just get more mileage out of it. But in the end that went okay, so here I am just painting some brown. Here it is after the brown's gone on. The underdecks haven't been painted, you can see, but honestly you can hardly see that unless it's in direct daylight. There are some sort of white spots still, but you can get around that with washes. Here I'm actually using some Decorator's emulsion for the dry brushing, and just a cheap old brush that came with like an archaeology kit that my kids had. Yeah, just dry brushing, standard dry brushing. It worked out quite well given that I didn't have my actual proper brushes with me. But yeah, it goes on okay, doesn't it? Look at that. That pot was like £1.50, and yeah, you get huge amounts of mileage with it. I recommend buying those. We've got a shop in the UK called Wilco's. Just get the sampler pots. They're super useful for just doing terrain and things as well. Here you can see the sides aren't done, very flat looking, but the top is done, and you can see the texture. And every cut that we did before, it really pays off here because it just bursts out into colour when you do the dry brushing. Here I think all the dry brushing is done. Kind of happy with how it's looking now. The wood, yeah, not bad, is it? And yeah, this totally didn't even make a dent in my popsicle stick pile. If Vallejo Liquid Silver. If you can buy Vallejo Liquid paints, absolutely do. They are the best metallic paints I've ever come across. They are very runny. I think they're alcohol based actually, but they are really, really good. They're very different to paint with than Citadel silver colours that I've in my experience. But yeah, I recommend them. Here doing the figurehead. I did think about doing some more fancy detail on that, the eye lens and things, and maybe I'll go ahead and add that afterwards. But in the end, I just did silver, just getting everything just metallic. I'm deliberately doing everything super bright here, so the idea is that I just paint the base coat bright, and then later we're going to be using washes to bring out the detail and also just give a bit of weathering effect. You could approach this by doing the base coat and then highlighting up from it, but I've approached this one differently. Here I'm adding some orky redness because, you know, that makes it go faster. The door at the back. Yeah, you also you can see there the silver coming through the red. You just dab it with your finger. First time I'm ever using Ork Flesh contrast paint. I'm actually using on a TV screen here, or a monitor screen, and honestly I love how it goes on, and I think it ends up looking really good as well. And I kind of like that my first ever use of Ork skin contrast paint was an Ork skin. That makes things a bit more interesting. There you go. You can see that's the colour done. And now we're just going to hit with wash. This is Nuln oil. Got a nice big tub of Nuln oil in the back there, and I'm just going ahead and applying it to anywhere that I think will benefit from it. This is mostly the metallic surfaces and structures. I save something else for the wood, as I'll show you in a minute. With washes as well, I'd say that if you feel like you've put too much on, like, don't be afraid to just dab it with your finger or with a bit of cloth. Cloth will get a lot more off. Finger, you'll get less off, basically. It's like it's a means to an end. There you go, just dab it off. And it's off. Easy as that. I think the silver looks more metallic with a bit of Nuln oil on it as well, because you get the contrast of the shade and the highlights really well. Here I'm putting some Nuln oil on the wires, which really helps to bring out their detail. Also on top of the kind of power unit. I don't want this just to be like Nuln oil on that particularly. Here I go for the Agrax Earth shade, and I'm basically just shading in anywhere on the wood that I think would benefit from it, and, you know, look dirty and orky and like it's been used. Here I'm just dousing, this is always the plan, just to make this be swimming in Agrax Earth shade, just to sort of give it that burnt metal kind of look, that electric, burnt, energetic sort of metal look. Here I'm just hitting these with some Agrax Earth shade just to brown them up a bit as well, make them a bit more earthy and used looking. Around the bases of things, you know, places you'd find the dirt on an Ork truck or an Ork Battlewagon. And then on the figurehead, maybe a bit too much, maybe not. Hey, it's an Ork vehicle. Let's just have some fun. And here you go, here's the finished article with some unpainted Ork boys on it. I really enjoyed doing it. I'm definitely going to do more. I've got an idea for how it could be based, which I think I might do in a future video, but I've never seen it done before, and yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it. Cool. Well, that's been my tutorial, if you like, on how to build an Ork truck. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and thank you for watching Peacetime Painting.